Who do you guys think hurt their draft stock the most?
Will,
start with you, Tarps.
Go ahead. Traps, you had it listed, so I mean, I'll let you. You had Jordan Addison listed, and I think that's like a pretty easy. I mean, like that stood out. I'm not saying you picked the low hanging. I'm saying like it's a very, very obvious situation for him because this is a guy that like we thought could be like what he was like. Didn't Kenny Pickett say "come get me" or like he was like "come get me" talking to the Steelers like, to match him up, and it's like a guy who has been. I mean, he got insane NIL money to go to USC out of Pittsburgh, I believe, and he was considered like a top wide receiver prospect, and now you just see the way that this is shifting around. It does it again. It's very easy when you come into these draft classes to think like, okay, we're going to compare this top receiver in this class to the top receiver in a class the year before, but it's just as you point out, like it's not the reality in this case, and Addison certainly hurt himself.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, 5'11", 173. So when we all saw that in Indy, we're like, oh, he's going to run crazy fast, solidify himself as wide receiver one. Runs 4.49, one of the lowest broad jumps, one of the lowest verticals among the wide receivers. I think at this point, and again, this is kind of the craziness and the impact that the combine can have. We're probably talking about Jordan Addison more, one of the last picks, maybe from 25 to 32 in that range. When again, a week ago, it was like I mocked him to the Houston Texans at 12 a lot, and Texans fans loved that. Like it seemed like an obvious selection. I remember being on this show back in 2018, Will, and I put up a big red flag for Calvin Ridley because I was like, this guy's older, he's small, he's light, he didn't work out well. I was wrong about that one because Calvin Ridley ultimately became a pretty good receiver. I mean, he certainly got to start his career with Julio Jones there in Atlanta, but what made me think about, hey, like there are some comparisons between Jordan Addison's game and Calvin Ridley's game. We're just looking at the draft. There are other guys that are similar size that didn't test very well, that haven't been good, like Jalen Reagor, like Nelson Aguilar, who's been decent, but I think teams that are drafting Jordan Addison want more than Nelson Aguilar. Early second-round picks like Marquise Lee, Andy Isabella, Dante Pettis. So for every miss with a Calvin Ridley that's just not a high-level athlete at that size, there's a bunch of misses. So Jordan Addison to me, Kayshon Boutte also from LSU, another bigger name wide receiver that just did not test well. And teams want to see big testing numbers in the first round.
Yeah, I don't know if it's because I'm just a 49ers fan, so I'm just zeroing in on all of the running backs here. But Tank Bigsby out of Auburn, I feel like he kind of disappointed, and maybe his stock plummeted a little bit. Because if you look at this, there's a lot of middle-tiered ball carriers entering the draft, so he really needed to dazzle. I feel like he just fell short. He ran a 4.56 40, 32.5 vertical jump, 9.11 broad jump. I just feel like he didn't stand out like he needed to. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I think with Bigsby, that was the name of the game with him on the field, is his explosiveness and how he can hit some of those big plays. So I'm certainly, thinking that some scouts will say, look, I'm just going to lean on the film and I saw him run away from some people in the SEC. Others will say, well, yeah, 4.56, lower vertical, lower broad jump. That's not going to tick the box in the middle of the draft. And Katie, you're right. This draft, and to me, almost every draft, has a litany of just quality running backs, big time talents, rounds 3, 4, 5. If the blocking is good, they can be solid contributors at the next level.
Can I like, I don't want to lob him out as I don't know how to phrase this. Like, cause I don't want to say like his stock got hurt. Cause so Bryce Young got measured. I think it's, the fact that it's insane to it's like, oh, he's over 200. Well, he's fine then. It's like, dude, I could add like 15 pounds in like a day. Like, just give me some IPAs and some Ben and Jerry's. Like, okay, I can shoot up to whatever number you need. Like, yeah, exactly. Like fire up some. So, but I sort of wonder, like with the Bryce Young thing, the way that the quarterbacks threw, like CJ Stroud was so freaking good in that throwing session.
Yeah.
I wonder, like, did Bryce Young hurt his stock by not throwing, Katie? Like, do you think that, like, if he goes out there and throws and balls out, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, does that, how much did that affect it in sort of your opinion? Obviously you too, Travis.
I mean, for me, yeah, I would agree with you on that one, but I didn't really look too much into it. So let's try Traps.
Yeah, no, I mean,
I think he hurt his stock. I mean, you're right, Will, that being 204, which I think he probably crushed a gigantic breakfast right before he worked out.
I'm cooking like
Wow.
I'm eating like like, sir, did you really mean to order a tomahawk steak for breakfast? I'm like, yeah, I did. I'm not working out.
I don't think he plays anywhere close to 204, but that's on the record now, 204. So that's good for him. What to me, like, I don't blame him for doing it because his 2 years of film at Alabama were so good. But CJ Stroud had really good film at Ohio State too, and he decided to show off his accuracy. And if you're Bryce Young, he could have said, all right, I'm not going to run the 40. I'm not going to, try to stack up with Anthony Richardson or even Will Levis's athleticism, but I'm going to be, like CJ Stroud said, a ball placement specialist and just throw perfect strikes in the throwing sessions. No one would have, totally bashed his stock if he didn't throw well, but I think he would have. So sitting out, I get it, but he did not necessarily help himself as much as I think the 204 at the beginning of the week maybe indicated, because everyone around him, the two marquee names, Stroud and Richardson, balled out in Indy.
This is actually a good point for Dom too, by the way. Sorry, not, but it's just like Young is he's gonna lose all that weight in his pro day and then throw and look awesome. That's probably what it's gonna be.
Yeah.
And Thomas Scott said that his was Levis. He did disappoint, but he was just meh. Anthony Richardson took all his momentum.
Yeah, that's a good point, especially with Will Levis during the podium session, which I don't blame these guys for being confident. Will Levis said that I have the strongest arm to enter the NFL in a long time. And then I didn't think it was, it was good, but I think Richardson was more effortless.
You don't have Josh Allen's arm, bro. And Anthony Richardson was just stronger in this class. So that's a bit of an egg. And he did have great hair, though. I liked his hair.
Very nice hair.
Floppy.
That counts for something. Good hair counts for something.
It does.